This is the J6CR paddle from Honolulu Pickleball, and this one really surprised me. Historically, I felt most comfortable playing with hybrid-shaped paddles. However, the J6CR is the first elongated paddle that's really made me feel confident in making that jump. If you've ever been curious about elongated shaped paddles and worried they might be too powerful, too demanding, or too unforgiving, well, the J6CR, guys, is one you should keep your eye on. Let's break it down. Quick disclosure, this paddle was purchased with my own money. Honolulu has no input in this review prior to going live, and all thoughts are completely my own. However, if you do choose to use my code, it helps me to continue making content just like this. The J6CR retails for $195, and after code dwell time, that brings the cost of this down to only $175. This paddle has been selling through batches quickly. As of recording this on February 5th, the third batch has already sold out, and the fourth batch is shipping March 20th. Shape-wise, this is an optimized elongated paddle measuring 16.4 inches long by 7.52 inches wide. That width is slightly wider than most elongated paddles, and I think that plays a big role in how forgiving this paddle feels. The handle on this paddle, including the neck taper, is 6 inches long, which makes two-handed backhands feel great, and this allows for you to really whip the paddle face in the kitchen. The handle thickness is 4 1/8, so perfect for customizing with an overgrip. Stock paddle weight sits in the 8 to 8.2 ounce range. My unit came in at 8.2 with a swing weight between 112 to 118. My paddle had a swing weight of 114.5. Twist weight in these paddles can be expected between 6.2 and 6.8. However, I think most have noted a lower twist weight, with mine coming in around 6.35. The CR in this paddle name stands for core reactor, and this paddle uses a CFC layup. There's a lot going on in this core, and I think the best way to explain this to you is if I show you kind of a top-down view of an illustration that I made of the cutout of the core, and I think this will really help you visualize the tech that's going on in this paddle a little bit better than even an x-ray would do. So I'm gonna switch to that right now, and guys, none of you make fun of me in the comments for this little art project that I've done. So I know a lot of you have seen the images floating around the internet of the x-ray or internal images of the core. However, I just wanted to take a step further and show you a quick visual aid that puts it into an even better perspective. So right off the rip, you've got a solid EPP foam core that's nothing new, as well as the notched edge foam like we've seen on the NF paddle. But what's unique about this paddle are two things. One, the pivoting joint down here in the bottom, and two, the cuts through the EPP up here. So these cuts up here at the top actually do not go all the way through the core. They go partially through, but they do not meet on the other side. So what this does, as I understand it, this allows the core to flex, right? The dynamic flexing that gives you that sensation of dwell time. And then down here, if we remove the notched EVA ring, you can see that there is another piece of EPP at the bottom with this piece at the top. And what this allows is a pivoting, right? That supposedly should give you a better angle of deflection. Between the bottom pivot piece and the top EPP core, you can see we've got the EVA channel that cuts through, reinforced by what I believe is carbon fiber to give it some structural rigidity, and around the outside edge as well. And what this does is this helps give a little bit better twist weight to the paddle, as the carbon fiber is heavier and more dense than the EVA foam. And so putting it all together, you've got a flexing, pivoting core that leads to a very predictable power profile, and deflections off the face actually feel very good on this paddle. So all that core tech aside, I think what really matters is this paddle doesn't feel unpredictable or jumpy. Power comes off in a very linear way, and I think that's what makes this paddle feel so comfortable to use. So moving on to general performance metrics, I'm gonna try to keep this quick and simple. So power, I would say this is mid to high tier power. I think this sits just below the loco. Pop on this paddle feels excellent. I would say this is definitely on the higher end of pop. No issues putting away balls in the kitchen. Spin is very strong. Topspin dinks, drives, and drips feel excellent on this paddle. And I think that's helped in part by the combination of the gritty surface on the paddle, as well as the core tech that's going on in this paddle. Stability is better than most elongated shaped paddles. I would say perimeter weighting definitely helps, but I think most players could enjoy this out the box. So maneuverability is where I think this paddle really stands out. It's quicker and easier to access than you'd expect for an elongated shaped paddle, and I think this is what will make many hybrid shape users feel comfortable playing with this paddle. Feel off the face of this paddle is excellent. It's crisp and lively. I would definitely say it kind of has a Gen 3-like hollow feel. However, I think it pockets the ball very well, and I think this is helped in part by that flexing core. So on court, the Honolulu J6CR is crisp, responsive, and powerful. Serves and drives come off with good pace. And while at first, I'll admit I did launch a few balls long, after a short adjustment period, I was able to dial this paddle in very nicely. I was able to get great dip on the ball, and I found that I did not have to muscle it to get serves deeper in the court like I have with other paddles. Drives were fast, and top spin was no issue on this paddle. I felt like I could get more spin out of this paddle than other foam core paddles similar to this. And honestly, I would call the drives on this paddle elite. I mean, I think this is my favorite paddle to drive the ball with because it's just not overly powerful. It's just in that perfect kind of almost like Goldilocks zone where you really can kind of swing freely once you dial the paddle in, and had tons of elite level drives that were hard for my opponents to return. I actually used this paddle in a singles tournament just recently, and I was surprised on how well this paddle stood up to other power paddles on the market. Almost everyone in that tournament was using some sort of elongated power paddle, and I felt like this one held up very well with almost all of them. The only paddle that I felt like was significantly more powerful than this was the Selkirk Boomstick. So going into dinks, I think this is where I really started trusting the paddle. The sweet spot feels pretty generous for an elongated shaped paddle, and touch shots stay predictable. The pop kind of allows for easier resets and taking the ball out of the air because you can kind of just stick it out and let the paddle do the work for you. Resets and drops on this paddle were no issue. Even though it is a power paddle, I felt like it had great touch and great control. So I was able to place those resets and drops pretty well in the kitchen and not leave them quite as attackable as I have with other more poppy paddles. Flicks, rolls, and counters felt very natural, and the balls were easy to put away thanks to the pop, spin, and lower swing weight. The 6-inch handle really allows you to whip the ball when you need to. The paddle feels pretty solid from my experience and stays composed even on off-center contact. I do think a small amount of perimeter weight makes this paddle unlock even more in this regard. However, you can certainly play this stock. So all that being said, this is the first elongated shape paddle where I really don't feel like I was giving up something significant compared to a hybrid. So out the box, this paddle plays very well. However, because of its low swing weight, there's definitely room to add perimeter weighting to increase the twist weight and the plow through of the ball. Personally, I do think many players would probably enjoy this paddle's stock just to get the benefit of the lower swing weight on this elongated paddle. However, if you do want to add perimeter weighting, what I've opted for is 4 inches of 0.5 gram per inch tungsten tape from the cheeks going up the sides. So that's 4 grams total. I think another great option would be 3 grams in the same spot of 1 gram per inch. So with my modification, it took the swing weight roughly from 114 to 117, and it took the twist weight from 6.35 to around 6.8. And I think most people would be happy with those numbers, and they certainly don't feel overwhelming on the court. Final thoughts. So the J6CR's biggest strength is that it's an elongated shaped paddle that plays like a hybrid. It's got linear power, it's got crisp feel, it's got a great sweet spot, and it feels really good in the transition zone. The only downsides that I really see with this paddle are, one, that the traditional peel ply material used will definitely wear down over time. I hope Honolulu has a plan to make some sort of durable grit surface here in the near future. And the only other downside that I see is that this is definitely not going to be the most powerful paddle on the market. So if you're chasing max power, you can certainly look at something like the Selkirk Boomstick or maybe the Elongated Loco. This paddle is ideal for intermediate to advanced players, hybrid users who are curious about making the switch to an elongated paddle, or players who want more reach and power without sacrificing control and comfort. If you've been on the fence about making that switch to an elongated shaped paddle, I think the J6CR is a paddle that really will make you feel confident and safe making that switch. Thanks again for sticking around. And as a bonus, I actually have a surprise for you guys. I'm giving away a rhombus Quanta in the R2 shape, and this is in their new black colorway. This doesn't cost you anything, guys. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel and fill out the Google form linked in the description below, and just list your favorite pickleball memory. This giveaway ends February 28th at end of day, and I will pick a winner randomly the following first week of March. Thanks again for sticking around. I'd love to hear your feedback. Are you planning on purchasing this paddle? Do you already have it? And what are your thoughts? I try to read each and every one of your comments down there, and I try to respond to as many of you as I can. With that said, I hope you have a great rest of the week. Stay safe and stay pickling.